Hello?
Yep, still here.
Okay. Okay.
So, you were speaking earlier about the teams that you had set up and how you were able to get a fulfillment center. How did you go about financing for certain things, being that you only had $32 on you?
A couple things. One, I allowed the business to tell me when to grow. So I think that we see, like right now, entrepreneurship is very sexy. We've got Shark Tank, we've got the profit, we've got all these sorts of things, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Although not everybody is an entrepreneur, not everybody should be an entrepreneur, and I don't say that to be like condescending, but not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. Like some people like the stability of having, a paycheck every 2 weeks, and because when you're an entrepreneur, you definitely don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Sometimes there's no paycheck, and sometimes there's a paycheck, but you got to pay other people, so you're left with like 74 cents. So, and, you pay your own insurance and stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with knowing yourself and not wanting to be an entrepreneur. But right now it's a very sexy thing, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And I think because of that, we see shows like Shark Tank, and people are like, hey, I need $250,000 for 20% of my company, and they get this money, and then they're just like killing it. They're all of a sudden they've gone from 0 to 2,000 in no time. And I think the people who are not getting those deals are seeing that, and they're like, oh, I got to bankroll this in some sort of way really, really quickly so that I can, be on this fast track, and everybody's in this race. And there's another thing that I live by, which is there's no traffic when you stay in your own lane. And I just feel like, trying to keep up with the Joneses is the worst thing that you can do for your business, because there's always usually going to be somebody else, unless you have an unlimited budget, there's always going to be somebody else who has, moved a little bit faster than you, or someone who's done something more creative than you, or whatever. There's always going to be someone who's bigger and better than you are as a company. So to constantly stress yourself out by looking at what everybody else is doing and following their Instagrams and their tweets and, feeling like you're not moving fast enough is just, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. And so instead of doing that, I actually stopped following a lot of people who are my competitors, and some of them are my friends. Like, I know them, they're competitors, and technically they're competitors, but they're my friends, but I stopped following them. Because it's like, I don't want to feel like I always have to be in a race. Like, I want my business to grow and thrive, and I want it to grow healthfully. I don't want it to be, like, there's companies who are, there was one that was on Shark Tank, they have like $3 million in sales, but they're not even profitable. And I'm like, how do you have $3 million in sales and you're not profitable? This makes no sense to me. Like I don't want that. I don't feel like entrepreneurship needs to be like, it's going to be challenging, but it doesn't need to be like miserably difficult,
Right.
And so I've allowed my business to tell me when to grow. So, for example, I got my fulfillment company when it got to a point where I was getting so many orders that I couldn't fulfill them in the time that I promised my customers. So, for example, when like we promised that if you place your order, we promised that if you place your order by today, then it'll ship out tomorrow. Well, when the orders started coming in and I'm doing everything, it got to a point where those orders aren't going out tomorrow. They're actually going out 2 or 3 days later because there's so many. It was time to get a fulfillment company. And I figured out a way to pay for that. Now, luckily, with most fulfillment companies, it's just kind of part of the shipping and handling charge, and the customer is usually paying that anyway. So that was a good move for me to make at the time because it wasn't something that I had to bankroll. It was just making sure I had enough sales to cover their minimum charge every month. So a lot of fulfillment companies have a minimum charge you have to meet every month. And as long as I was able to meet that, I was good. And so that's when I went ahead and got the fulfillment center. I have a call center now because it got to a point where people were calling in and they're calling my phone. I'm answering it. I'm like at the grocery store, and half the time I'm losing reception in the middle of the call, trying to take an order while I'm at the dollar store with my son making a bunch of noise in the background. Like, this is not professional. I mean, that literally happened to me. And I was like, I gotta get a call center. Or someone, at least a virtual assistant or somebody to take these phone calls for me. Also, we have live chat on our phone, on our website. And there were times when I wasn't at my computer and I couldn't do the live chat. So it got to a point where I wasn't able to service my customer the way that they need to be serviced. And so that's when I got a call center. I didn't go out and get a call center and a fulfillment company and all this stuff out the gate because I didn't need it. I mean, there was a time when I was lucky to have, 20 sales in a month. And at that point, I can fulfill 20 sales in a month. I can answer those phone calls. But when it got to the point where we're getting hundreds of sales a month, I can't do that by myself. So
right.
I think my advice would be to allow your business to tell you when it's time to grow. If it's, like right now, I'm going through a growing period where I have a lab where I hire people to help make my products. But I'm still in the lab sometimes making those products also. And it's getting to a point, or it has gotten to a point where we need to completely offload that to a manufacturer. So like I know like now this is something that I'm looking into because I can't keep doing this on my own or even hiring like the couple people that I have to help me. Like we actually need a company who does this for a living and can make hundreds and thousands of products, per hour or whatever. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Like, let your business tell you when to grow. Stop following everybody else because then it just puts you into this rat race. And the whole point of being an entrepreneur is ideally to gain more freedom and to gain financial freedom and to gain freedom of your time and to gain, like, do whatever you want with yourself. But if you're a slave to the rat race, you just created another job for yourself. It's just that you're your own, like you're a slave to your own thinking. And nobody wants that. Like, there's a difference in being an entrepreneur and being being a small business owner and being an entrepreneur, And if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have to let those things go and just let the business tell you when to grow. Otherwise, you're going to be like those people who have $3 million in sales, but they're not profitable.
Wow. Now, with that being said, what creative strategies did you use in the beginning to execute on your minimal cash flow?
I use a lot of social media. When I worked at Ford, I was in charge of the global social media thing that they were doing. At the time, this was like 2009, so social media was very much in its infancy as far as businesses were concerned. So a lot of people, like regular people, were using social media to connect with each other, like Facebook and things like that. But companies, especially large Fortune 500 companies, hadn't started using it yet to connect with consumers and actually, create relationships and obviously, hopefully make sales. And I graduated from grad school in 2008. 6 months later, in 2009, I was recruited by Ford to do this. And so they moved me from Ohio to Detroit, and I was in charge of that. Now, this is my first, real corporate, super, super corporate job out of college. Came with a lot of office politics that I was not, used to and all that. But my boss was a rock star in this area. I mean, he was so much of a rock star that, when we would go to conferences, people would be asking him for his autograph, and he was always on, CNBC and CNN and MSNBC and giving his insight into, the corporate landscape of utilizing digital marketing. And so I was very lucky to have him as a boss. I don't think he really saw me as his apprentice, but that's pretty much what ended up happening. He taught me so much about how to utilize social media to successfully to make sales. So, a lot of companies now, they're like, okay, I got to get a blogger, I got to get it this, I got to get it that, and I'm just going to, get on social media. But he really taught me how to utilize it successfully and effectively. He taught me how to select bloggers, how to choose who was quote-unquote worthy of, us basically giving a car to for a week and having them test drive and write about it. And we were really one of the first companies to do that. Now you see all the companies giving away free stuff. By the time Ford was the first company to really do that. But what was happening at the time in the auto industry was that the auto industry was down. And Chrysler and GM had taken buyouts. Ford did not take a buyout. So there was a very concerted effort within the company to make sure that the general public knew that Ford did not take the buyout. And so social media was a tool that they were using to do that. And also their goal was to make Ford appeal to each individual person. So rather than coming across like this big, huge conglomerate, the goal was for us to be a big brand that acted and thought like a small brand. And so when it was time for me to start my own company, I took all those skills and all that knowledge that I had gained from him in that environment, and I used it for my own business. So when I went and started my own business, I already knew how to, pick the correct bloggers to do. I mean, there's a lot of quote-unquote celebrity bloggers. And some of them I haven't reached out to because knowing what I know, they're not the right fit for what I'm trying to do. But everybody reaches out to them, and kudos to them for, getting their money and doing what they have to do, but for Naturalicious, they're not the right fit based upon what I know. I also learned how to maneuver throughout social media, how to, what to say, what buzzwords to use, all that sort of stuff. So really, the bulk of my, marketing had been via social media because I didn't have a budget to go and get advertising. And that sort of thing. So it's kind of hard to say, exactly what creative things I did other than the fact that I used my knowledge I had gained from working in that, literally being thrown into the wolves in that environment at Ford. And at the time, it was just like, oh, my gosh, Lord, why is this so hard? But it served me when it came time to run my own business.
That's fantastic. Now, there are so many different natural hair care products, and it seems like there was a wave of natural hair care products within the last few years. And myself, I actually went natural and ended up having to do the big chop, not by choice, not by choice, but just by experimenting with so much and trying to grow out my natural hair. How do you distinguish yourself from your competitors? What made your product stand out?
So I really focused on being different. Being disruptive as opposed to being different. And I had no interest in creating another product line just for the sake of creating a product line. That did not interest me at all. What interested me was how can I solve every pain point that people have when it comes to their hair, especially for African American women. Because there's so much self-esteem and so much, just stuff that's caught up in our hair. There's self-esteem, there's history, there's pain, there's love, there's all sorts of stuff that's in our hair that a lot of other cultures don't deal with. And I wanted to figure out a way that I could solve everybody's pain point because I had those same pain points. And so really I started the line for myself. And then, like I said, it kind of, family and friends started finding out about it, and it kind of snowballed from there. But I really looked at the three things that people always complain about when it comes to natural hair. First is spending too much time on their hair. They're they call it wash day. They literally block out the entire day. God forbid you're a mom and you have a daughter or two that has a lot of hair also. You might be spending the whole weekend, right? So I was like, what can I do that's going to eliminate that time suck? And so that's how I came up with my 4-step system. So it's we have a 4-step system. It does the work of 13 products in just 4 steps. And so it saves you a ton of time because you're not, buying 13 or 14 different products to do what you need to do on wash day. You're doing 4 steps, and they're doing all those things for you by default. So it saves you over 80% of the time you would normally spend on your hair. So then I said, okay, what about the money? So people complain a lot about, these natural hair products are so expensive. And, they have to be expensive because when you're using good ingredients, the ingredients are more expensive for the company, right? So how can I still include those same healthy ingredients but cost the consumer less? So, again, we have the 4-step system. To do everything that my system does will cost you $130 on the cheap end if you spend $10 a piece. So 13 products times $10 a piece is $130. My system is $49.99 to do the same work but better, right? So usually you are either spending a lot of money and getting decent or good ingredient-based products, or you're buying cheap products and you're susceptible to all sorts of harmful, damaging chemicals, some of which are known to cause breast cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, how can I include all these great ingredients that isn't going to give you breast cancer or anything, like that, and still make it affordable? So like I said, for 13 products you normally would spend on, my product line is $49.99. Then I said, okay, the next thing that people complain about is being a product junkie. Like, we joke about being a product junkie, but nobody likes being a product junkie. It just kind of comes with the territory, right? So you're like, okay, I buy a product, I hate it, and I'm stuck with it. So it goes into my drawer or my cabinet, and then when somebody comes over, maybe I gift it to them, and maybe they can have some bad hair, right? And so I said, okay, what kind of return policy can I come up with that's going to put confidence in the consumer's mind, as well as like prove that we believe in our brand? And so our guarantee is that you're going to absolutely love our product line. If you don't, you have 60 days to return it. Now, most places give you 15 to 30 days. We give you 2 whole months. There's plenty of time for you to use the product to see if you like it. If you don't like it, you can return it for 100% of your money back, and we will buy you a competitor's product to replace what you returned.
Wow.
So there is absolutely zero risk with trying Naturalicious. We solve every single possible pain point that you could have when it comes to your hair. So you can't say, oh, well, I don't want to try it because it's too expensive. It's not expensive because you would spend $130 to do what we do. Oh, I can't buy it because it's going to take me too much time. We're going to save you 80% of the money of the time you normally spend. Oh, I can't buy it because, I'm going to get stuck with it. What if I don't like it? If you don't like it, return it. I mean, absolutely, like bottom of the bottle. If you use the whole bottle and you don't like it, return it, and we're going to give you all your money back, and then we'll even buy you another product so you don't even have to come out of pocket for that. So solving every single pain point. So what I mean, like being disruptive as opposed to being different. Like, yeah, we can create another leave-in conditioner, but if it's another leave-in conditioner, what's the utility of that? How is that going to really enhance somebody's life? Like Naturalicious, actually on our About page, we list that we see ourselves as a beauty innovation company. Like, we're not a natural hair care company. We're a beauty innovation company because we will never create, as long as I'm alive, we'll never create a product that doesn't enhance the consumer's life. Like, if somebody comes up with another shampoo, does it have some sort of extra thing, and is it going to save them money? Is it going to save them time? Is it going to be able to be used on everyone in the household, including babies, kids, and adults? Like, how are we enhancing their life? If it's not enhancing their life, it's not going to get created. It's not going to get put on the market. So that's really how I see Naturalicious, as opposed to just being another hair care brand. Right now, we focus on natural hair care. We'll probably branch out into other forms of hair care. We'll probably branch out into beauty at some point. But everything that we do has to enhance your life or make it better in some sort of way. And I think that's a really good the fact that you can look at our testimonials on our website and on Amazon and even on YouTube and see people like screaming about our products, about how they've changed their lives and how they're never going back to anything else and how they become extremely brand loyal to Naturalicious. It's a testament of that. Actually, a 62% repeat customer rate online alone. Now, to put that into comparison, the average online retailer has less than 30% repeat customers. We have 60%. So we have over double what the average is for all of the internet. So, and that's because we have, we're solving problems as opposed to just creating something nice to have. We're creating something that you need as opposed to something that's just kind of like, oh, I'll try this and it's nice to have.
Right. That's fantastic. Now, I have to ask you the ultimate question. How did you come up with the name Naturalicious?
I'm a creative person, but I'm not the most creative person. And really, I don't like to think about names. Like, whenever I'm trying to name something, I don't like to just sit down and come up with a name. Usually, the best name, like when I sit down and try and think of a name, it usually just, like, it sucks. It feels forced. It's never natural. And I just say, okay, you know what? It's just going to come to me one day. And that's kind of how I operate when I'm naming things. And it just came to me one day. I was sitting in my office, and like I wanted a name that was fun, but that, it wasn't limiting. Like, I didn't want it to be like such and such hair care company, because I knew that eventually I may want to do something other than just hair care. I also didn't want to do something that was too vague. So I wanted you to know that even if you don't know what naturalist is, at least you know it has something to do with being natural, right? Mm-hmm. You know that something in it has a natural component. So when naturalist just kind of came to me, I was like, that's so cool and fun. And, yeah, I think I'm going to use that one. And that's really just how it came. I have no rhyme or reason as to how that came to me. It just kind of infiltrated my brain one day, and I was like, I think I'm going to go with that. And that was it.
Well, that's good to know, because I believe, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck right there. What is the name? Because everyone throws at people, your name is so important. It's so important. So that's really good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Gwen, what would you describe an outline of your typical day?
So my days really are very atypical, but usually I get up around 7:30, take my son to preschool, and I come home. On a perfect day, I go work out. Those perfect days don't happen very often. So I go work out, and then I come home, and I immediately get to work. The first thing I try to do is to do everything that doesn't involve a media interview or, like, making products or anything like that. Like, if there's any phone calls I need to return, emails from the day before, that sort of thing. I try to do all that before 1 o'clock. Because for some reason, once 1 o'clock hits, to me, like, the day just starts to fly by. And I try to get as much done as I can before 1. Once 1 o'clock hits, I usually have my interview. So this is kind of out of the norm. Normally I would, like, have scheduled this at, like 2 or 3.
Okay.
But normally I would have, like yesterday I had some interviews, and I had them at like 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So I'll do media interviews in the afternoon if I have any. And then I'm usually in the lab working on making the products and that sort of thing. So in the afternoon I'm making products. I'm also pitching to media. I am returning the morning's emails, and I'm also talking to my content producer about things that we need to focus on for the following month. So we're always a month ahead as far as content goes. So, like, this month we're working on February. In February we'll work on March. I'm sending out emails to my email list. I'm on social media heavily, especially Instagram, because that's where we have our most engagement. Most of my afternoon is spent marketing, doing some sort of marketing, whether it's setting up a campaign on Instagram or on Facebook. I actually also do business coaching and that sort of thing. So in the afternoon I have my clients that I coach for business and that sort of thing. So I try to get done before – I pick my son up at like 5. So I try to get done with everything by 5. Now, last year and the year before, I spent the entire year exhausted. I was working all the time. I think I took one vacation, and the entire road trip there, I was working, which did not make my boyfriend happy at all. This year, I decided that I'm doing more self-care. So I'm taking days off. I'm not working on holidays. I'm actually taking vacation, that sort of thing. So normally in the past, I would pick my son from school. We'd hang out for a couple hours, and then he would go to bed, and I would get right back to work. This year, so far, it's only, realize we're only like 6 or 7 days in, I've been successful at picking him up, hanging out with him, putting him to bed, and then just chilling for the rest of the night so that I can kind of regroup and I'm not so burnt out. So I feel like I've done a good job of building my business to where it is now. And I can kind of, I don't want to say rest on my laurels because that's not what I'm doing. I'm just, I think you need time to regroup and re-energize, and I haven't done that in the past 2.5 years. So I'm trying to make sure that I do that this year.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the business coach, and I'll definitely be putting a link up to that on my site so people know how to get in contact with you and fill you out for your business coaching, because as I'm sitting here listening to you, I was going to ask, what are you doing with that information you have? But you mentioned you were coaching, so that's awesome, and I'm definitely going to put that link up there. Now, one question. Excluding yours, what company or business do you admire the most?
Spanx, for sure. That was easy. I love Sarah Blakely. I think she's incredible. She's like my mentor in my head. Like, she doesn't even know it. Do you know who Karen Civil is?
I heard that name. Was she on Oprah for that?
No. Well, Sarah Blakely was for Spanx, but Karen Civil is actually like a really high-end, well-known, almost like entertainment blogger. But she works with Russell Simmons. Like, that's how she got her start, like doing like Global Grind and that sort of stuff for him.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so she has her own brand now, and she's pretty well respected. And she had a list of the top 10 like power women of 2015 or something like that at the end of the year. And there were all these people on this list. I was included on this list, and Sarah Blakely was she was right next, like we were like next to each other on the list. And I was like, oh my God, this is serendipitous,
Oh, wow.
I love Sarah Blakely. I mean, she's not the youngest anymore, but at the time, she was the youngest self-made billionaire in, I don't know if it was in the U.S. or in the world, but either way, she was the first. And she was female. She started her business with $5,000 savings, and it was the same thing as me. It was just like, I have a need for, to kind of like hold some stuff in, and I can't find anything that has this, so I'm going to create it. And that was really what it was with me. I had a need, and so I created it. And she also filed for a patent to on a patent on her product, and she did it all on her own. And that was the same thing as me. Like, I needed the patent, so I did it on my own. And I just love her. Like, she's so fun, and she gives back, and she owns 100% of her company, which is unheard of at the level that she's at. Like, most companies that are $1 billion or more, they have investors, that sort of thing, and they all own a piece of the company. Like, she built this from scratch, all by herself, with no financial assistance from any investor. And I just think that that's crazy awesome. So
it is.
I definitely see her and her company as who I admire the most.
That's so awesome that you two are on the same list.
Yeah, I'm like, we need to meet.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure that's going to happen. Now, where do you see yourself in your business in 10 years?
I see us as over $1 billion company. I see us as having we're in some Whole Food stores now, and I see us as being in all the Whole Food stores by that time. I also see us, we're in some international locations also, but we're definitely going to be in even more. Like, we're not in Europe yet, but we are in South Asia. We're in South Africa. We'll be in more parts of Africa. And we're in a lot of the islands. So we're like in St. Croix, we're in St. Thomas, we're in Trinidad, Bermuda, the Bahamas, and we're just going to be all over the Virgin Islands. So I just really see us growing, still stay on the same path, still doing what we're doing, only creating products that are going to enhance people's lives. We will have more products than we do now. We'll probably have a beauty, we may have a makeup line, we may have a skincare line, and we'll definitely have products for all hair types, not just natural hair.
That's awesome. I'm like sitting here blown away right now. Now, if you were me and you were conducting this interview and you knew that you had readers who were going to be inspired by you and your story, what question would you ask yourself, knowing that other entrepreneurs or people who are looking into entrepreneurship will be looking at this interview? What questions would you ask yourself, and what would be the answer?
I think I would ask, what do you live by? Like, what's your mantra, so to speak? And how has that that helped you get to where you are? And I would say that one of the things I live by is that greatness precedes glory. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we look at, especially celebrities and athletes, but just anybody, even Oprah as a business person, and we look at them and we're in awe of what they've achieved. And we're just like, wow, like, he's a great business person. He's a great athlete. She's a great pianist or whatever. And we don't consider the fact that we're looking at their highlight reel. We're not looking at what they had to do to get there. And we always say that so-and-so is great because, like, Michael Jordan is great because he, seemingly flew through the air and was, like, dunking on people. But no, Michael Jordan's not great because of that. Michael Jordan was great before that ever even happened. Michael Jordan was great when he was in high school and college. And the glory of him dunking and flying through the air with his tongue out and all that stuff, that came as a result of his greatness. So the example that I always give is Michael Phelps. So Michael Phelps is the most decorated Olympic athlete of all time. He has the most gold medals of any athlete. Now, understand the Olympics have been around for centuries, not years, centuries, right? I mean, like the Greek Roman folks were doing the Olympics, right? So that's how long the Olympics have been around. And this one person that is obviously living right now is the person who has the most of all time, over like thousands of years. He's the one who has the most gold medals. And he has 6. And so a lot of people say, oh, he's great because he has 6 gold medals. No, that's not true. Michael Phelps was great when he was a kid and he was making the decisions to do what he needed to do to be the greatest swimmer ever, right? So when he was deciding to forego hanging out with his friends and eating whatever he wanted and living on an extremely strict diet because he knew he had to stay at a certain body weight and certain leanness in order to compete at that level, that was what was making him great. When his mom was a single mom, and when he was begging her to, like, scrimp and save to send him to work with the best, swim coach that they could afford, that was his greatness. Like he was making like you're making decisions now that are great that will lead to that glory. So him getting those 6 medals is a result of the greatness he already had. So like I said, the greatness precedes the glory. So I would tell whomever was reading, if I were interviewing me, I would say, don't focus on somebody else's highlight reel and what they've achieved, because they've achieved that because they made those greatness decisions. Like, greatness is, seriously, it's a choice. It's a simple choice that you make to say, I'm going to be the best at this, or I'm going to be incredible at whatever this is that I'm doing. And you either do the things that need to be done to achieve that, or you don't, period. It's a very simple thing. It's not like you don't have to be born with a certain amazing talent. I mean, if you are, that's to your advantage, but you don't have to be. If you make the decision and you want to be incredible, then you do what you need to do to be incredible. Like Serena, like they say she's the best athlete of any sport ever, and I wouldn't argue that, right? But Serena is not great because she's won all these tournaments. Serena was great when she was that little girl with those whack beads. Her sister, and she was out here and at the time, Venus was the one that was winning everything. But Serena said, I want to be the best. Like, this is my sister, I love her, but I want to be the best. I'm going to practice my behind off every single day out here in Compton where don't nobody that's black play tennis. I'm going to be, just out here practicing hours and hours and hours a day. Like, she could have been out hanging out with her friends at the movies and all that stuff, but she said she wanted to be the best. So she made the greatness decision. She made a choice to do that. And as a result, we see where she's at now because of those decisions that she made when she made that choice that she was going to be great. So just make the decision. Do you want to be great or not? If you want to be great, then do what needs to be done to be great. If you don't want to be great, then that's fine too. But don't say that you want to do something and then you don't actually do it, because if you don't do the work, then you don't really want it. It's just like working out and exercise. Like, we all know what we need to do to be fit. Everybody knows, right? It's very simple. Exercise, eat sensibly, right? Everybody
Right.
knows this. But if you really want it, when you get to the point where you're fed up of being overweight or out of shape, then you go and you do what you need to do. And you see all these people who are 300 pounds and they become like 150 pounds. And you're like, how did you do it? What diet did you use? Like, no, they made a choice. They made
right.
a decision. And when they made that decision, they did what needed to be done to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So just understand that if you don't do what you need to do to get, like, we all know we need to work hard. We we look at Diddy and we see him, like, dancing in the videos and being all goofy and, he's over the top. But, I mean, he was making a decision to be great when he was, like, 21, and he walked into Andre Harrell's office and said, I'm going to be an intern for you, and I'm going to push paper, and I'm going to be, like, I'm going to be on the bottom of the totem pole so I can learn everything I can from you. Like, how much pride do most 21-year-olds have? They're like, I just graduated from college. I'm not about to be pushing paper. I need a job,
right.
So he was like, I will work for you for free. Just teach me everything you know.
Wow.
And so look where Diddy is, because he made that choice to be great versus anybody else who was coming out at that time.
Well, Gwen, honey, I can shout off of this interview right now. This was awesome. I know I said 5 minutes. We've been on the phone for about an hour, I think.
I know.
But it was very inspiring talking to you, and I am sure my readers are going to get something out of this and some seeds that will be planted into their brains off of this. And I thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to inbox you my email address and send that over to you to see if you can send the recording to me.
Okay.
Oh, and also send the link to your coaching business as well as your actual website, so I can put the links up there.
Okay, the website to the coaching is actually on my personal website, but I'll send you the direct link to that page.
Okay, that'll be good. I cannot wait to try your products.
Oh, thank you. You're going to love them.
I can't wait. Well, thank you so much. And you'll probably be hearing from me again because I'm definitely going to be clicking on your coaching link as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if you have any other follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.